going to be for educational and promotional purposes. And we're going to go around and check in briefly. How was your empathy buddy call? Did you do an empathy circle, and how was that? So I will call on you, and here we go. I am going to start with, let's see, I'll start with Reed.
Good morning. I'm assuming it's me, it's Raed, but
Yes.
thank you. So my meeting was with, no worries, don't worry about it. My meeting was with Kevin. It was a great session. We started talking freely and transparently, and we ended up helping one another into what we should reread some of our books to emphasize some of the concepts and be an added value. Overall, it was a pleasant experience.
Great. Thank you very much, Raed. And Martina, I have you next. You, yeah.
Hi, I had a great buddy call with Jackie, and we're much on the same wavelength. And I hosted 2 empathy circles with some people that I knew. And I have one question. It went very well. I guess one question was, I gave the directions for how to do the listening, and one of the people kept giving advice and judgments, and so I wasn't sure what to do. So basically I kind of said, oh, just a reminder to the listeners to just reflect, you know, and what the other person said without judgment. And he did seem to catch it eventually, but I wasn't sure what to do then. But
that's just right. Exactly what you did. And then in the next few sessions, we'll have an opportunity to practice with situations like that. But you're an example of doing it just right. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Michelle. Sorry, not Michelle.
Pardon? Not me?
Yes, you. Exactly you.
Oh, okay. My buddy and I were extremely busy this week, so we didn't get a chance to get together, unfortunately. I did do a one-on-one empathy circle with my daughter, which was different from our regular conversations.
Now I can. Your audio is off, or at least it is for me.
Yeah, it's off for me too.
Me too.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So she kept trying to get answers, and I kept telling her it was more, and I would, I'd paraphrase or give her back what she had said, but she kept wanting me to give her answers to different things. So after a while she got it. So it was really nice, and she did feel like she was actually really heard in a different way. So it was really nice.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Michelle. Jackie.
Hello. Yeah, I didn't do an empathy circle. I had a call with Martina and Jessie, her boy. No, it was very beautiful. It was beautiful to ask the questions, why do we want to do this, and what do we think the benefit of it is to us, and get some deeper clarity about what's our motivation. That's me.
Great, thank you so much. Kevin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My session one-on-one was really great. Like Ryan said earlier, we were able to connect. We were able to give, at the end of it, more resources to each other based on different books. It definitely was a rewarding experience in reference to the dialogue. One of the interesting part was us connecting from 2 different areas. There's a little ongoing joke I guess we had about the time frame and that connecting piece, and then just how, again, conversation became very organic and growing. Definitely looking to connect more with this and with them.
Great, thank you. Wonderful reports from these Empathy Buddy calls. Next, I have your name, ADR4U2L.
I'm sorry, that's Linda Bass. I need to change that name. I did. I must have missed the instructions on how to do a buddy call because I would really like to do that. But I did do an empathy circle with my nephew to the second power. I say that because it's my niece's son who is 20 years old, and it went surprisingly well because we talked about some real issue that he's having, and I think it was it surprisingly well with the listening and rephrasing, and he said it was very helpful. So, so somebody tell me how to do the buddy call because I would like to connect with someone. Thank you.
Okay, great. You'll be getting an email after today that gives you your Empathy Buddy. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Stephen.
Good morning, everyone. It's still morning in New Mexico. I had a buddy call with you, Celine, and it was great. It was wonderful practicing this particular form of empathy, of just listening to reflect. And Celine and I got to discuss a little bit of some other stuff that we have in common around empathy outside of this organization. And that was also really, really helpful, sort of to clarify what we're doing here, I think. I didn't do an empathy circle. I'm very aware that this is going to be difficult, not difficult to facilitate, but to organize among my people. It's a challenge, and I'm going to kind of have to figure that out. So that's me. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. Mona, would you go, please?
Yeah, hello, everyone. Unfortunately, I didn't do the Buddy Core Embassy Circle last week because it was my final week and I have a final project to submit, so it was a very busy week. I hope next week will be better with me having just one class left. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Glad you're here. Shannon.
Hi,
Hi.
good to be here again. I was able to do my buddy call with Bill. Yeah, it's great. Get some kind of share some life experiences and also get some tips and tricks related to bringing empathy circles into the schools, which was awesome, and resources. So grateful for that. And I think it's also going to be difficult for me to organize a empathy circle, but I'm looking forward to kind of brainstorming about opportunities to do that, even if it's virtually with family members or something like that. So thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Tiffany, Miss Tiffany, would you please share with us?
Hi. So you're asking about the empathy circle this week that we tried to do on our own?
And Empathy Buddy, just to check in how you
Okay.
are. Yes.
My empathy buddy, good morning to all, good afternoon. My empathy buddy is Ralph Galen, and he's here on today. That went really well. He was helping with my listening skills. And the empathy circle that I did when I called a friend, I completely forgot about it, and we just started talking about stuff that had. So we're going to give it a try again next week.
Thank you. Okay. Shyam, can you check in? Do you hear? There you go. Thank you.
Hi,
Would you
Celine.
remind me again how to pronounce your name correctly?
The second time you got that bang on. It's Shyam.
Shyam. All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. My empathy buddy was Kathy, and we struggled a bit during the week with getting the timing to actually get the call, but we did a little while ago, and it was short and sweet. We both, I think, I can speak for myself, I felt quite heard, and we just discussed what was on our minds and yeah, what felt alive for us. I also conducted one empathy circle with a couple of my friends, and as a facilitator, I had some challenges with managing the time, but otherwise it went quite well.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jassy, would you be willing to check in? Tell us.
Yes, hello. Actually, I didn't get to do the body call, but I would love to try it. But I've tried the empathetic listening. I guess my feeling, it was a bit awkward to listen to a person, even though I've chose a friend that liked to talk. The listening didn't last for an hour, so I will try that on other times too.
Okay, thank you very much. And now let's see, Mina, would you please check in?
Okay, sure. Michelle was my empathy buddy, and we have been empathy buddies before, and you know, for some reason we just didn't connect this week because I'm also in another training. So so I really don't have anything to contribute other than that I'm excited about today's session.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Mina. And Graham, would you check in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Celine. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you all for what you offer me here. The last couple of weeks have been kind of marked with turmoil and overwhelm. But in and amongst that, I've had two empathy buddies. The one that was planned for me, I'm sorry to say, I didn't make any attempts to contact. But I talked to Francesca and to Michelle. And we're opening up something very, very interesting with Francesca. And Michelle has helped me enormously, dumping on her in something like 3 empathy sessions, lasting at least 3 hours over the last 2 weeks. And I thank Michelle very, very much, and look forward to further conversations with Francesca. So that has, that's my last couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Graham. Ralph, would you please check in?
Yes, my buddy was Tiffany, and she put it well. We had a great buddy call. I reached out to somebody who I thought shared common interests, and we had a buddy call. Mutual admiration circle. And I didn't plan a formal empathy circle, but what I find is that I can't speak to anybody without presuming that they are worthy of empathy, and if I don't treat them empathically. So this, as I was saying to Tiffany, this extends to bureaucrats that I call on the telephone to you know, see if my car is ready, or to people at the cashiers at the supermarket. And if I'm not behaving that way, I feel a little insane. So,
thank you, Ralph.
You're welcome.
Francesca, would you please check in?
Sure. So yeah, so it's really great to meet with Graham, and some wonderful things happen there, and it's really interesting how it's starting to become part of starting to settle in as being part of a discussion, like a natural discussion, where we're implementing the empathic skills within the discussion. I did try to set up another call with another empathy buddy, but I didn't hear back. So that never happened. And I ended up having a half-hour empathy listening with my sister, which was quite interesting. Yeah, it was interesting because we don't usually do that. So I kind of repositioned us in that moment in our relationship, which I thought was really interesting. So it was cool. It was cool. So so that's what I did this week.
Thank you, Francesca. Bill, would you please go next?
Sure. I had a great buddy call with Shannon. I'm really excited about what she's doing. I didn't have my empathy circle in schools circle this Thursday because I had to, travel. But I've been doing the trainings and excuse me, sorry if I coughed in your ear. I couldn't help myself there. And right, everybody, a sympathetic cough. Anyway, it's been really gratifying and just to see all the people that are coming and how important empathy is to people. And I just consider you all brave pioneers. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Michelle Clark, would you please go?
Thanks very much, Celine. I owe an apology to Mina because I didn't actually check the buddy list for this cohort because I wasn't on last week, and there was a big empathy circle on this week, and I had some like really good buddy calls with like Graham and Evelyn and a few other people as well. So yeah, checking in, probably a little bit tired, I think, but also really grateful to be here and glad to be like kind of finally arriving into this cohort properly. So, and thanks, Mina, for understanding.
Thank you, Michelle. Kathy, would you please check in?
Sure. And I think Dawn came late. I'm not sure if she checked in or not.
Thank you for reminding me. I'll ask her after you go.
Right. So my empathy buddy was Sham. Delightful to be able to talk to him. And I felt fully heard also. And I'm grateful to be here and looking forward to working with everybody today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Kathy. Dawn, would you please check in with?
Hi, yes, I'm struggling with my internet and it keeps crashing. So I don't know if you can hear me okay.
Yes, we hear you well.
Yes, I'm a bit stressed because I missed week one because somebody surprised me. It was my birthday last Saturday. But I hate missing things, being late, stuff like that. So I'm feeling a bit stressed. And yeah, couldn't get my internet to come on. So yeah, feeling a bit frazzled. But the two empathy circles that I have attended already, I've had some comments from my partner that they feel really heard. So I take that as something like that's made a difference just from actually coming to a couple of circles. Someone in my life has given me some positive feedback. So yeah, really looking forward to what it can do. And a bit anxious whether people will feel listened to if they can't see me.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, and thank you for sharing your concerns. And you will be treated with great tenderness and care.
Thank you.
Yes. Rasha, would you please check in?
Sure. So I had a buddy call with Afra, who unfortunately I don't see here. So, and it was a very interesting call because it just showed me how small the world can be because she's from pretty close by. Her hometown is very close by to my hometown. And on top of that, we also found out that both of us studied in the same school. And that too, not in India, like in Saudi Arabia, like where I grew up, like in Jeddah. So both of us went to the same school there as well. So she possibly was a junior around the same time I was studying there. So that was interesting. And then yeah, we had one empathy circle. So I've been hosting empathy circles every alternate Tuesday. Graham helps me out very often. And so as part of which we did have a very beautiful empathy circles. Like we had around 12 people show up. Yeah, that's
Great.
from me.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you, Rasha. Edwin, would you please go?
Yeah, we had our Monday training, which was went really well. I was part of Michelle's Empathy Cafe that she held last week on empathy and trauma, how empathy relates and empathy circles relate to trauma. I thought that was a very successful Empathy Cafe. And then yesterday we had our intro cafe, and we had about 30 participants. We're using a little different process of using a fishbowl approach. So people come, we had 30 participants, and the people who feel ready to take part in the circle had about 6, 7 of them willing to sort of model the empathic listening and the empathy circle practice. And I thought that worked fairly well. So I kind of was appreciating that. So that's it for now. I'm working hard too, making all the rooms here, so I'm a little distracted too. Thanks.
Carry on. Well, I will go. I also was part of the empathy circles that Michelle organized last Wednesday, and it was an extraordinary experience. And I am on the road, and I have chosen to not open up my computer, not check the mail, not read the news. So I'm totally out of it. I'm in my son's bachelor house while he's camping. And there's a lot of guitar playing equipment, a lot of beer, a lot of peanut butter, and the most uncomfortable chairs. I'm sitting here trying to. Anyway, I'm happy to be here and do empathy with you. And I'm going to pass it on to Bill now.
Hi. So I'm going to address some feedback, and then this will be fairly brief, but hopefully it'll cover some things. And if you have further questions, please don't hesitate to email us or get your needs met. So one is one that came up here: how to host with only one facilitator. And Edwin mentioned the Fishbowl Approach. I put a link in just now. That's to the training site, and you can see a lot of that. We did that yesterday. And so essentially what that is you have a group of people, you don't have enough facilitators, or you only have one. You introduce the basics, and then you start, and then you can ask people in reactions to raise their hand, and then you create a little mini empathy circle within the larger one, so that people who feel ready can participate, and then the other people, can just observe. And so that's one way to handle that. The other is to put out an empathy buddy or to email the facilitators. And Edwin has a link to that where you can just send an email to all the facilitators. And I have to say that what I've seen and what the response is when I've done it is that the facilitators are very generous with their time. So that's an issue. Is there an ideal group size, both larger and smaller, and what point does it become unwieldy? That is somewhat dependent upon the nature of the people. I was in, I think it was Monday. Yeah, I was in an empathy. It started off with 4 and ended up with just two of us. And that's a little different. You have to kind of come up with content. You certainly can be flexible around that. In this case, the person who I was with, had some content and just went through. So I did a lot of reflective listening. But the ideal usually is around 5 or 4 to an empathy circle. And 5 minutes gives you like a nice, good amount of time. You can do it in 3. So you can adjust the time and the amount of people depending upon the circumstances. So is there a significance between virtual and in-person? So yes and no. So there's in-person means like sometimes we do street actions. And so when we go out to political demonstrations, we offer free listening. Now, under that circumstance, it is possible, but it's more difficult to find 5 participants who are ready to participate in an empathy circle. You got to train them up real quickly, and they've got to be listening to everybody else. So in those times, generally what happens, in my experience, is that you're just kind of listening to someone, 1 or 2 people, and doing that. Although I have seen, and we have done with Edwin, with more experience, he has done empathy circles in those circumstances. But it doesn't always happen because you're dealing with the circumstances on the ground. Now, if you have a meeting and you call a meeting and everybody comes to the meeting, or a class or something like that, it basically can go just about the same way as it goes here. You break up into little breakout groups, et cetera, et cetera. If the active listener is making a judgmental comment, one of the things I say in my introduction is that, I'm facilitating, but if I correct you, it's not criticism of you or your ideas. It's just to keep you in the process. And that feels a little bit awkward because it's not a regular conversation which we're used to having. And also assure them that as an active listener, you can't respond in that way, or don't respond, even saying, oh, I like that, or, poor you, whatever it is. But when it's your turn to speak, you can. So it's just the timing of those roles. So that's my answer to that. And how do we introduce or invite people to empathy circles? Edwin has an excellent example where he says, I have an assignment, will you help me out? And so that's the guilt trip approach, and it's very effective. And people are very nice. They generally will, respond to that. And of course, that's, as Edwin is doing, he posts and promotes on LinkedIn, Facebook, something else. And you try to, engage people. That is much more difficult. It's a long-term project. And, it's worth the effort, but also don't beat yourself up too much if you can't do it. It takes a while, and that's the trick. And that's about it. Are there any other outstanding questions that people might have that
I wouldn't ask for questions now. We're right at the end of the hour time. If we go into questions, we're going to really run out of time for the practice.
Never mind. Okay. Great. And I'll pass on to Rasha, who will do the breakout room descriptions.
Right. So now what will happen is we'll all be going into breakout rooms where you will be given time to practice facilitation, right? So all of you will be facilitating a mini empathy circle within your breakout rooms, right? And so remember that the context is such that you're going to assume nobody there knows what an empathy circle is, right? So you'll first do a how-to, as in you'll explain how an empathy circle works, right? So that'll be the first part. And then you'll go on to facilitate an empathy circle. So so if there are 3 participants, each of the participant will be taking turns. So suppose we start with participant 1, they'll first introduce what an empathy circle is. Then they can set a topic, right? And the topic that we suggest is, what are your thoughts and concerns about being an empathy circle facilitator, or whatever is alive for you. So you can feel free to choose your topic as well when you are, practicing as the facilitator. So you can set the topic, and then you'll also have to assign time. So you'll have to, we suggest 3 minutes, so while you're facilitating, just give 3 minutes to each speaker as they speak. Then after your facilitation is over, then all of us, the rest of us in the group, will be giving you feedback as to how this session, or how your facilitation went, right? That'll be the next part. And so we'd also suggest that while you're facilitating, facilitators can be the first listener. So suggest that you be the facilitator, whoever is doing it, be the first listener, so they can model how both the listening and the speaking can be done. So you can show it to the rest, right? So Always, that's something we suggest to all facilitators, be the first listener, right? And yeah, and so towards the end, we'll be having a debrief as well, a short feedback from all participants. So we suggest that, each of you take around 20 minutes, right? Or depends on the facilitators, right, within the group. So 20 minutes each for each of the participant to kind of practice facilitation. And the whole process will be repeated for participant 2 and participant 3. So the intro, you'll be giving an intro on what an empathy circle is, and remember that you'll be facilitating an empathy circle. So with that, I think we can go into breakout rooms now. Edwin, any questions,
Okay.
feel free to check in with your facilitators there.
Okay, so we have about an hour and a half for this. So the first group will be led by Graham, and then Celine, Michelle, and Rasha, another group. And then Bill, you only have 2 people in your group. And so you'll have to divide, in half. You'll have extra
Okay.
time. And then I'll be with Mina too in your group. So here we go into the rooms, and also send a 10-minute warning before we come back to the full group for the full group debrief. So here we go. See you in the rooms. And Mina, your group will stay here. I'll stay here with you.
Is that it? I think.
Yeah, Ralph is not there, but he's in a different room, so he should be, maybe he'll be moved automatically. So I can also be a participant, so you have 3 participants. I'm glad to sort of model it. And
All right. All right. Well, I think, I'm sorry, what did you say about Ralph? Is he coming back, or is he going to a different room?
he's not in this group. He's in a different
just
group,
hasn't.
and that looks like he's stepped out and he's not pushing the button. When he comes back, he should be joining that other group.
All right, great. So welcome back, everyone. So this is my first time facilitating. I'll be honest, I get confused with all the different titles. So, but what we're going to do in this session is we are going to do a mini empathy circle with those of us that are here. And Ralph, I believe you're going to be going to a different room. So I don't know.
Yeah, you should, Ralph, you should see a button to move into the room. Are you there? Maybe he did.
Frozen.
Oh, there he goes.
Yeah. All right. Now we have 4 people. So Edwin is also going to play the participant's role, so he can model some of this. So what we're going to do, so we're going to take about 5 minutes or so each of us, and you're going to do an introduction on how to do an empathy circle. So if you don't know what that means, I think Edwin can model that for you. So what we'll do part 1 of our session is going to be, you're each gonna do a quick introduction on how to do an empathy circle. We'll have a brief discussion about it, and we'll give you some feedback. And then the second part will actually you'll have the opportunity to actually facilitate a empathy circle with those of us that are here. And so we'll just take it step by step. So first thing is, who would like to do a introduction on how to do a empathy circle?
I can start to model it. I'd be glad to model it.
Go ahead, Edmund.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to this empathy circle. So glad that you're joining me for this. I think empathy circles are really important practice for learning empathy and listening skills. So I'm really excited about this practice, and so glad that you're willing to take part as well. So as I understand it, that none of you have taken part in an empathy circle before. So let me just explain how the practice works. There's different roles. There's a speaker, there's the listener, the active listener, and then the silent listener roles. And then there's the facilitator, which is my role. I'll be the facilitator. And in this practice, we have our topic, which let me put the topic into the chat here so you can see. Oops. Let me. Sorry, didn't have that set up. So here's our topic. What are your thoughts and concerns about being an empathy circle facilitator or whatever is alive for you? And so the speaker will select who they're going to speak to. You can speak on the topic. And then you share a little bit, maybe an idea or two, and then you want to pause and let the listener reflect back their understanding of what you've said. And then as the speaker, you sort of check, did the other person understand what I was saying? And if they did, you continue saying, continue on your train of thought. And if they didn't, you maybe say it again in other words, and because the real goal is for you as the speaker to feel heard and understood to your satisfaction. So you speak a bit, you get a reflection, you check, did they understand you? Then you speak some more, and then you get a reflection. You just keep doing that, and we'll have 3-minute turns for doing this. And then once the once the speaker feels heard to their satisfaction, or 3 minutes is up, then the listener is going to become the speaker, and they're going to select who they're going to speak to. And we continue around, for the time allotted. We'll have about 20 minutes for that. So a few tips as the speaker. You want to pause periodically so that the listener, can, reflect back, give some space to reflect back, because if you say a lot, there might be, too much for them to remember. As the listener, if the speaker is saying a lot, you can ask them to pause, please, pause so I can reflect back what you're saying. As the listener, you're also wanting to just reflect back your understanding of what the speaker has said. You don't want to, add your own comments, your own judgments, or anything from yourself. You're just wanting to reflect back your understanding of what the speaker has said. So the best way to learn is just to jump in. And so I'll be the first listener, just to sort of model the listening. And so who would like to be the first speaker? So finished. So, but we're just going to get a feedback now, just going to get a little feedback before we actually do it.
All right, sorry, Edwin, you wanted to do a feedback now or until after everyone finishes? Oh, I think it's probably best to do it now. Okay. So Edwin was, he modeled for you what you guys are going to do in a few minutes. Does anybody want to give Edwin some feedback on how? Well,
maybe I'll start. I always like to ask the presenter how it was for them first. So just as a tip for you, to ask the facilitator who facilitated, ask them how it was for them. And I wasn't quite prepared for this. Usually I have a little script, set up, so I just doing it off from my head. So I felt a little, not quite prepared, and I got all these other rooms that I'm sort of juggling. So it's always, it takes a little bit of attention. So I didn't feel totally present, but so that was my experience.
Okay. Does anybody else want to give Edwin some feedback?
I think I'm hearing the basic premise of what's supposed to happen, how to introduce it, tell them what you want to tell them again how to do it, and then tell them what you heard. Basically, what I'm hearing from him in reference to, the clear 3 roles and expectations of each role, and those little nuances that make them uniquely different, but also part of the circle. Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also managing time. To be a very key point, always being repeated back.
Okay. Linda, do you want to offer Edwin any feedback?
Well, just a question. You have understand the facilitator's role. You have the speaker selects the listener, and then when it's over, when they're fully heard, the listener selects the speaker.
The next speaker.
They the listener will become the speaker, and then they will select the listener, their listener. So if I'm
Okay, go ahead. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
so if I speak to you, you listen, you know, to reflect back, and then when my turn is over, you as the listener select you become the speaker, and you select who your listener is going to
Okay.
be, and it goes around for the
Okay.
time allotted.
And I just want to add that, so there's one primary active listener. So if Edwin picked you, Linda, and you'd be the active listener because you're going to reflect back what he's saying, then the others are silent listeners, but they're still listening. So,
Yes.
and then you, as the active listener, you become the speaker and pick an active listener. So,
yeah.
Anything else, Linda?
Oh, I got it.
Edwin, so my feedback, are you open to my feedback?
Yes, please.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you know, this is my first time doing this too, and I'm trying to figure out, wait, are you the facilitator or am I the presenter? These titles get me confused. But as far as your presentation, your introduction, you know, I've heard you do it many times before. And I did feel like I've heard it done a little bit better, you know, before, but as you said, you were nervous and you're trying to do 10 things at once. So I did get a little lost in it, but that may be my own nervousness. So I cannot, you know, I'm not sure. But I think you hit all the main points, and it looks like Kevin and Linda understood everything. So I think you know, we're good.
Okay, great. Thank you for all that feedback. So we can jump into the actual circle, and I'll be the first listener. And who would like to speak? And our topic was, what are your thoughts and concerns about being an Empathy Circle facilitator, or whatever is alive for you? And you have 3 minutes, and I'll keep time. And if your time is up, I'll just hold this up. Okay, I'm listening.
I always like to go first. Some of my concerns are, I think I got the roles down. I struggled, like last week when we were doing the empathy circles, and when I was doing it with my nephew to the second power, it took all I had not to offer advice or suggestions. I mean, it took every ounce of strength not to. So I had to stay in the moment and remind myself I'm just listening.
Can I reflect that back, what I'm hearing? So what I'm hearing is that you think you have the roles down, and when you were doing your empathy circle with your nephew, it was a real struggle just to listen and not try to give advice. So you're always having to check that, no, I don't give advice, I don't give advice. So
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that was my training, and you know, whatever. But I was surprised that it went as well as it did, because I recognized that I did not give advice. I stayed focused. But when he rephrased back what I was saying to him, I could tell he was getting it. And when I was the listener and he was the speaker, I could tell he was thinking through and actually coming up with not suggestions, but some conclusions. It was, you know, his dilemma was becoming clear, what he needed to do and where he stood. So that was helpful in reminding me that I don't have to give advice. I was telling somebody else about this training, and they were like, well, what is it? I said, basically, it's shut up and listen. You know, so we need to just learn to shut up and listen. So
so somebody is asking you about this process, and you were saying it's just about shutting up and listening. And when you did it with your nephew, you saw that that he was really understanding you when you were speaking, and that you were really understanding him. So it sounded like you could really sense there was some understanding going on there. It sounded like you're really valuing that, appreciating and valuing that.
Yes, and so my challenge as a facilitator will be to do the time, which I think I got that down, because I just put the timer out there. And so we were both noticing the time. And near the end, we kind of went a few minutes over, but that was okay. So the timing, and being tactful in my feedback, because I can be very direct, but I learned that positive, negative, positive. That's how you give you. Thank you.
Speaking of time, so what I was hearing is that, so what you're keeping an eye on is on the timekeeping, and the way you address it, you just put the timer out in front of you and you could both see it. And then also you're checking on how you give your feedback. You want to give a sort of a positive, any negative, and then a positive again, a sort of sandwich that any sort of negative.
Exactly.
Okay.
Totally heard.
Oh, great. Then I'll speak to Kevin. And
hello.
Let me just reset the time. So yeah, what's on my mind about facilitation? Yeah, it's what the main thing I'm thinking about is the overall training to make it easier for the people like Mina who are facilitating these breakout circles. So we have more support material. So maybe some videos and something to kind of prepare people to as a room facilitators to be able to support them. So I'm just thinking about that.
So what I'm hearing is, as being the author of this, you're trying to make sure there's appropriate tools of a variety of them that will help individuals that are facilitators, like videos, handouts, something that will really make them more robust in understanding, but also to move forward with it on their own.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just really want to make the training just sort of anxiety free, as little as, just to make it simple and a lot more preparation. And for example, I want to make some sample how-tos so that you, for example, you as a participant or as doing your mini empathy circle will have these tools to prepare you, or here's a good sample of how to give a presentation. So it's just the overall, I think of the overall design of how do we really make it very easy and supportive for everyone.
So what I'm hearing is you're trying to be very supportive of everyone, recognizing that, with Empathy Circle being new to it, there's a lot of anxiety that people will embrace with it. And you're trying to give them the tools to make it less of, and that those tools will help them with, sample cards, how-to cards. You want to pack their toolbox with so many things that they can pick from, which will also make future facilitators great, but also giving you the tools as well to make them great.
Exactly.
And develop this for.
And you really hit the nail on the head with the anxiety, right? It's that, to address the anxiety, to make it, reduce the anxiety. And I do find that once people start getting into the empathy circle itself and start learning that, then they start feeling heard. It's like, oh, the anxiety kind of, after a couple of rounds, the anxiety just goes. It's like, oh, this feels so good, just to be heard. And then people really appreciate the anxiety sort of dissipates. So, yeah.
So I'm hearing time. So I'm hearing time will heal all things, or practice. So anxiety is going to be there in the very beginning, but as to become more heard and as to become more involved in playing the various roles as facilitator, listening, empathic, their anxiety will reduce, but also make them stronger in a sense. And that, we know that works. But again, with your earlier, the tools to make that even more easier to transition into.
Exactly. I feel fully heard. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. That would be time, or?
That was my time, and it's your turn to select who you wish.
Okay, I'm not sure to talk to Mina.
Yes, I'll be happy to. I'm just going to ask if you could just pause after like one or two ideas or sentences, because it's a little bit hard for me to process everything, but go ahead.
Okay. I guess as a facilitator looking to being a facilitator, I'm really excited that there are more tools that are going to be helpful, that's going to be able to be pulled from a box, because I feel a lot of times you see things, but you aren't able to grasp them without to be able to reflect later in your own private time.
All right, so Kevin, you've shared with me that you're really excited about facilitating, and that you're excited that there's going to be more tools to choose from when you're facilitating, and that would be really helpful for you when you're in your own private time when you're facilitating.
Right. And I definitely feel as though those tools now along with the time that comes from doing it each time, I've noticed that definitely was, I don't know if I was feeling anxiety. I was thinking my anxiety would be excitement. But now I feel as though it's more of a calmness as each time something is done. So it's not, the excitement of going into, but now it's more the excitement of being a part of. So, a different form of anxiety. But I definitely concur with what everyone was saying in reference to that level that changes as you are in a part of this organic experience, which I look at as organic experience because they're so different personalities.
Okay. So you were reflecting, or you were sharing with us that you're that these tools will help retreat your anxiety, which is also sort of excitement, which now has become more of a calmness. Each time you do this, it will make you calmer. And that this is really part of an organic experiment, because you have different types of people, different personalities, and the tools will really help you contain that calmness.
Right. It's interesting. I recently was at lunch with some colleagues, and I found myself to be more available to listen as opposed to respond. As I was able to hear their whole story in reference to this one individual was upset about something that was going on at work. And early on I would say, let it go. It's not that deep. Things this too shall pass. But in the interim of me just listening, they found their own way there. Without me even saying anything, just being present for them. It was very exciting. I think I picked that up from this experience.
Right. So you're saying that one of the things that you've picked up from this ability to listen rather than respond, especially with I think you had lunch with a colleague, and you were able to really listen rather than just respond to what he was saying, and that allowed him the freedom to come up with his own resolution.
Right, and then also, it's helping at home with my wife. Yes, the stereotype is true. I want to answer the question, solve it, and move on. I'm learning to just listen, be present, and an occasional nod, and then I actually, hey, pause. I want to hear you, and so she's able to repeat it back to me.
Okay.
And I think she's enjoying it.
So this has not only helped you with your colleague, but it's also helped you at home, because you have been able to just listen and also say things like, please pause so that I can actually reflect back to you what you've said. So this has been helpful overall, both professionally and personally.
Yeah, and not sounding clinical. Yes, thank you. I definitely feel heard.
All right, so I guess it's my turn to be the speaker, and Linda, we'll just go around. Would you like to be my speaker? I mean, be my listener, sorry.
I'll be glad to listen, thank you.
All right, great. All right, so this is my first time doing this, so I'm a little just anxious, nervous, making sure I got everything and trying to be an active listener at the same time. So I'm just gonna take a deep breath and relax.
Okay, what I hear you saying, Mina, is that your emotions are all over the place because this is your first time and you really want to do a good job.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So my thoughts, the topic is, what are your thoughts about being an empathy circle facilitator? I'm actually, really excited about it, because here I'm practicing, but I want to do this, in my own world. And so I really feel like this is a great tool to bring people together. I think there's a lot of discussion around empathy and sympathy, and there's a lot of academic sort of knowledge, but this is an actual you practice. So I want to practice it myself in my own personal life, but I also want to teach others to do it.
Okay, what I hear you saying, Mina, is that you can read about it, you can study it, but you actually, when you do it, when you have the opportunity to practice, you become more comfortable with it, and you want to be more comfortable with it because you want to use it in your own world, whatever that is. So practice makes perfect.
Yes. I mean, I have done other trainings, but I feel like this is the only one that gives you actual practice in doing it. So I'm excited about facilitating for that reason. And I'm just trying to think. I've worked with people in prison, inmates in prison, and I thought that's an area that I would like to take this empathy circle to. Like to, we do nonviolent communication and stuff like that, but I would like to bring empathy circles and see how that goes when we open up again.
All right, you, Mina, what you're saying is you've taken various trainings, but you really like this one because it focuses on practical application of the system or the process. And you are part of your world is the prison population, and you really want to get better at this, forming and facilitating empathy circles so you can use it with that particular population.
Yes.
Thank
you, Linda. I feel fully heard.
So this might be good to pause now to get the feedback. So each other has half an hour.
Okay.
So may I ask a question? Are there other ways of transitioning from one conversation to the other? Because it almost feels to me a little robotic when I say, so what you're hearing is, or what you're saying is. Are there other techniques of transitioning or repeating back, or to say it so it doesn't, are there more ways of transitioning to repeat back or to have the person feel listened?
I just reflect back. I don't even say what I hear. So I kind of shift. Like sometimes I say, oh, what I understand is, or what I hear, or I just say you're saying, or in the circle, it's just, I don't even need to say you can, it doesn't, but in the circle, everybody's familiar with the practice, and it's just like you're saying, yeah, you don't have to say what I hear you say is, you can just skip that if you want. Sometimes I say it, sometimes not. It kind of shifts.
I find myself doing it as the open door to now speak, and that reminds me of counseling. I'm like, I kind of loosen out, release that.
You want to let go of that.
Yes.
I think it's interesting. I think it's important to sort of maybe initially practice the mechanics of it, and then once you're more comfortable with it, go with the flow, whatever is comfortable for you. So initially, I'm doing what I hear you saying, or what because I just feel like it's kind of mechanical. But as you get more comfortable doing it in your own world, you drop it and just say what they're saying.
I have a question, and Kevin, that's a good question. As a silent listener, and I grew up in the old Baptist church where you respond to the minister and whatever. And so when people are speaking, I find myself, if I'm agreeing with them, nodding and smiling, the facial expression. So is that appropriate? That's what I want to say for the silent listeners, because it may be some that, as long as you're nodding in agreement with the speaker, they're okay. But when you're, the facial expression. So what's the suggestion for silent listeners in terms of body language and facial responses?
Anyone, do you want me to respond, or do you?
Yeah, go ahead. You want to give it first?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how this works. Like this is your facilitator.
Actually, yeah, we're supposed to be giving feedback for me.
Yeah,
so it's like feedback. How did I do with the facility? We're kind of getting in the quest Q&A, which maybe we can leave to the very end. But I will answer that real quick. Sometimes you just can't help but give. Your body is just sending. So, but it's just kind of keeping it, kind of low level. Not like saying, hey, yeah, I really agree with you, or, comments, because then you're sort of interrupting. So there's a sense you can't almost help it sometimes, like, yeah. So I just, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just, we do want to keep focus on the speaker. Like you're shaking now. I mean, I do that too, right? You're agreeing. And it's hard not to even do that but to a little level, it doesn't seem to really matter. But if it gets like, oh yeah, I really agree with you, then it starts really interrupting. So it's mini doses of it. So anyway, I felt pretty good about it. Once we got into the circle, everything seemed to go. And so I feel fully, I want to keep us on track too. So I don't want
Okay.
to,
Yeah.
so whoever, so yeah.
So what are we
Okay.
supposed to be doing?
All right, so I guess if Edwin's finished, we were giving Edwin feedback on his facilitation. So if anybody else has anything to add to how Edwin did, you can.
Yes, I like the sign.
Okay.
Yeah, the time, yeah. Yes, I like that. You know, especially with Zoom, you can do that. But you know, in an actual circle, you know, when the people are here, but I do like the
sign.
Yeah, because you're not interrupting, you're just reminding. Like, wait.
Okay. So who would like to go next then? Who'd like to do their introduction and then go right into the facilitation? Kevin, Linda? Should I
I'll
choose?
go.
Okay,
No
Kevin.
problem.
All right,
I'm
Kevin,
trying
you're
to be
up.
a gentleman because Linda says she likes to go first, but
well, try not
I
to
just want to make sure I heard her.
Okay, Kevin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Patterson. I want to thank you all for coming to the Empathy Circle. For those who are new to this, I just want to explain. Empathy Circle is really about listening and also speaking. But when you're speaking, it's a wonderful thing. I really want you to be mindful of what you're thinking about. We'll put a topic out there and it's going to be timed. So the reason why we want to make it timed so everyone gets an opportunity to speak within 3 minutes, usually is the basic time. And one thing about the listener is to be present. And when you're listening, you want to acknowledge, but you're not giving feedback, but you're giving a response to what you heard based on your understanding. So it's very important not to give the feedback, not to give your opinion, but also you are listening to let the other person on the other side of there to know that you're listening and you're present for them. This is a very great experience. I've done it once or twice, and every time I've done it, it's been very rewarding and it changes me. So each person get a chance. You'll be a listener, a speaker. I'll be facilitating as a facilitator, and I'll just be keeping time. Once in a while, reminding you that, you know, to pause, because, you know, I myself, I get very excited in speaking, so I have to remind myself, slow down. So you want to make sure you give it in small chunks. You know, and the small chunks is allow for the person to really be present with you to give back. So they're not just repeating you, but they're listening and they're also being empathetic to the time, but also what the conversation is. So again, it's a very rewarding experience. Each person will have a chance to be a listener and speaker. I'll start off as being the listener. Am I doing that right? I'll start off as being the listener, and who would like to speak? Meaning that you'll speak to me and I'll reflect back what I think you're hearing. And there's no wrong or right. It's just about me being present.
All right, great. Thank you, Kevin. So do we have feedback we want to give Kevin and how he did in his introduction?
Well, how was it for you, Kevin?
Sorry,
What was the
How was it for you?
experience?
I guess I'm in the back of my head, I'm trying to make sure I'm hitting all the points, not looking at my notes, reflecting back on what I've heard so far in each class, but also making it real for me when I'm presenting it back. So, but I also wanted to make sure I gave energy to the people in the audience that they feel like, okay, this should be exciting. Because I know I've been in times where it's been something going on and I'm so bored about a presenter before I even get a chance to even get involved with the content.
Okay.
Well, I'll feedback. Yeah, I felt like you were making it your own. So like you're really sort of enjoying it. And as well as you did mention how your impact had the meaning of it, that it's meaningful. That's what I try to do too, is start with, you know, I really value this, and if you're valuing it, maybe and I heard that from you, and I thought that was effective for me. It's like, oh, this is meaningful for Kevin, and it must be good. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Edwin. Linda, do you have some feedback to offer Kevin? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Kind of slow it down a little bit. I think he hit all the points, the relevant points, but especially for people from the South, you have to, we hear slow. Okay, I'm always joking, but yeah, just slow it down a little bit. But I think you hit all the salient points. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, Kevin, I agree with Linda. Just slow it down a little bit. And also, I think you hit all the points. But I generally, the way my mind works is I generally like to know like exactly. So if I'm the listener, you'll be the, so I'll pick a, there'll be a speaker, and then the speaker becomes a listener. I don't know if I heard that. So just sort of say how it will go until we go around, and we'll each get 3 minutes, and so on and so forth. But yeah, you said a lot of stuff. I like that you were really excited about it. I liked your energy. And that this was something really meaningful to you. So it was meaningful. It's going to be meaningful for me.
Okay. Question: did I do the right order? As a facility, I start off with the listener, correct? Because I stumbled there.
Yeah, you're going to be the first listener, and then you ask who wants to be the speaker.
And I can just mention that this is a group that we don't know the process. So the reason you're the first listener is so you can model the listening. So you're going to model it for the others. And when they see you do the listening, they'll kind of get a sense of how it works. So that's why you're the first listener.
Right.
Okay.
Edwin, are you going to continue to keep time, or do you want
no, the facilitator keeps time.
Okay.
So Kevin
All
is
right.
going to be doing the 3 minutes. You're just keeping the overall time. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Which I have. Okay.
So one of the things I'm going to do is I will keep time. And again, as we were saying earlier, I'm going to be the first listener. Whoever wants to speak, I will listen to them. And then the speaker now becomes the listener, and someone else gets the opportunity to speak. So that's very important in reference to sharing what's happening on the stage, on this platform. It allows for everyone to have equal time, and we're going to do it 3 minutes. I don't have a paper up. I'm going to use my phone as a timer, and I'm hoping that works for us. Again, I'm going to be the first speaker, listener. Who would like to speak first?
Is there a topic?
I guess for our first experience, I'd like for the topic to be what's live with you. That way it becomes more organic, and you can just go for it. Yes, Linda.
Okay, yeah, I'm unmuted. What I'd like to speak about is is climate change. And there are some deniers out there, and I can appreciate that to a point, but it's the old adage, the proof is in the pudding. And with us having fires and tornadoes and rain and lack of rain, and the insects are coming out when they're not supposed to be out, to me is proof that something's going on in the atmosphere.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is, you're talking about climate change. I think the phrase you use, the proof is in the pudding, with all the fires and all the different things that are happening throughout the world, even when we have insects and bugs that are coming out prior to their time. And I guess the reality is, is it being listened to, if I'm correct, or who's really identifying with it and not really believing it?
Yes, and again, I can say I can appreciate the deniers. Deniers. I can appreciate the deniers because for whatever reason they can't or will not accept what to me is right in front of our face. But at the same time, if you continue to deny a problem, you don't take any steps to correct it.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is you being very empathetic about those who are denying the problem, even though it's right there in front of your face with all the various things that's been happening with the fires and so forth. But if you continue to deny it, you won't have any answers for the problem, or are you going to realize that there's a problem because you're totally walking with blinders on? I'm hoping not adding too much into.
Correct. So I would advocate that we as a country, even though it's a global problem, that we as a country do our part to eliminate our toxic footprint through car, reducing car emissions, going to the electric cars. I'm all for windmills. I'm for anything that does not use coal and does not emit toxins into the air.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, even as an advocate yourself, you feel as though it is a problem across the globe, but in our world, in the United States or here, that, hopefully we can make better changes in our choices of using windmills, electric cars, reducing the emissions of any type of carbon that will affect the atmosphere. So those devices that are available or coming available should be moved more quickly to be used to help save what's left.
Exactly. So my end statement is, don't let the deniers stop the process.
Okay. And your end statement is not to, let the deniers, I gotta get the word, to stop the process.
Yes. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
So now, as it's your turn. Who do you want to pick? Good listener.
No, it's actually you,
Oh, no,
Kevin.
it's your turn, Kevin.
Oh,
All
come
right.
back to me? Oh.
Yeah, you
you-
were the listener, so you become the speaker.
Oh. So I get
And
to
you
do
pick
it.
a listener.
Okay, that's interesting. I'll take Edwin this time. I think I got me last.
Okay, listening.
I guess I want to piggyback after the conversation just started, reference to the emissions, the ozone, the ice caps that are melting. I myself, believe that, it is affecting the world. But one of the things I found very interesting is these new cars that they have out, which you're supposed to stop when you come to the stop sign. They are so annoying. Because I know they're saving the mission. I don't know if you experienced that yet. Literally, you come to the stop sign, the newer ones, and they'll cut off for that short period of time to save emissions. But that's I find it very just odd. I'm always hearing a car stopping. And I guess for me growing up, that was your car failing.
So yeah, the global warming's an issue, but this thing about these cars that turn off at a stop sign is just so annoying, because you're used to that. Was usually growing up, that was seen as a problem. So it's just very annoying for you.
Yeah. So I think with just that thing, it's going to be hard to adapt to the new way, because it's going to change how you do things, or the expectation of what comes from it. And I'm curious, because even with solar panels, I'm seeing them all over the place. But then understanding these solar panels in reference to the bigger picture of how does it contribute to a lesser bill and also help to heat your home. But then I'm always worrying about the big guy making all the money, and am I really am I helping them or helping me with these different innovations? Now I got somebody on my roof putting a solar panel that I'm not understanding the logistics.
Yeah, so there's all these changes going to happen around climate, new technologies and so forth, and how to adapt to that sort of a question. And then there's also that if you're saving money with energy, is it really saving something for you, or is it just helping out the big guy with all the money?
Right. So I guess with that, with change and everything, I'm not against it. I believe it's a great thing. But then I look at what's present right now. I think about COVID. How is that part of change, and who is affected by it? And I understand the numbers of deaths, but now I'm hearing my children are now to be vaccinated. And it's all seemed to be big pharma.
So I think I'm hearing some real concern about the big corporations and kind of what they're doing. How is that affecting the COVID, the vaccinations, and maybe some mistrust. Maybe I'm hearing some mistrust of the larger corporations.
So so I look at you have one, climate change. We're in these different temperatures, but then we have this realistic change that's happening across the globe that we're not embracing, or we're reflecting in a way of fear. I myself, I've been fully vaccinated, but then I keep hearing different things as you go on, from the magnet to tracking to future money. It's like, oh my God, and I'm a sci-fi person all day, but climate change, change in the world. It's like, how do you embrace it as being a human being? So much.
Yeah, there's just so much change happening, and how do you sort of adapt to it? And maybe some mistrust too about the shots, what's happening with them. And
so yes, So it's very interesting. Like I said, and I know I started with climate change and I went to COVID, and I think everything impacts everything. And it's just amazing how one part is so impactful in reference to our next level of future, but then the other part is even more impactful to the survival of the human race. But then I want to go back, was it 100 years ago when they said we were here before, experiencing the same thing. And it's like, you know, when do we get it right?
So there's sort of always been problems in society, and when do we get it right? Kind of start doing things right? You're just kind of like wondering when we start doing things right.
So I'm hoping that, you know, at the end of the day, with something like this and the circle, that allows for more voices to connect. So on all different topics. So I think one of the challenges, we don't listen to each other. We just speak at each other.
Sorry, I'm going to stop you because you've gone over the 3 minutes, but
Oh,
this is something you're supposed to be keeping track of.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, but go ahead, finish up.
I got to keep my own time. Yes. So I'm in my time there right now. If you want to reflect back, if not, it's now your turn.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, you're just wondering when will humans get it right? And you think that the empathy, listening to each other is maybe one way of getting it right. People need to start listening to each other, and maybe that will help get humans get this right by just listening to each other.
I definitely feel fully heard.
Okay.
It's your turn now.
Okay, I'll speak to Mina.
Oh, yeah. So remember, Kevin, you're going to be keeping tab.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I love what Kevin was saying about the empathy, because that was my question too. Is when Linda mentioned climate change, I wondered what is the role of empathy in that, and I think it is exactly like Kevin was saying, that if people start talking to each other, then they can start solving these problems.
Okay. Yeah. So you're sort of you like what Kevin said about climate change and how if people start talking to one another, that you know, that empathy can play a big role in climate change, and you know, we can make some decisions if we just start talking to each other.
Yeah, I think that a lot of like the climate denial is that people feel like they're not heard, or they feel disrespected. So it's like, well, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm just not going to listen to you, and I'm just going to call everything you're saying, you know, a hoax or something. So, so I think that if people start hearing each other, knowing that they're going to be heard, and that they'll start sort of being able to address the, you know, problems together.
So I think a key component of this, of the problems that I think the people that are denying have, is that they don't feel like they're being fully heard, that they're not being listened to. And so with these empathy circles, you know, if they just know that that we are listening, that you are listening, and that you do respect and what they say, what they're saying, that the conversation could lead to, you know, a better outcome.
Yeah, and I had that experience too, as we set up this empathy tent in Berkeley when the political right would come and have demonstrations in Berkeley, and there was counter demonstrations. And we held an empathy circle, and I brought in a woman who was a conservative and one that was a Berkeley liberal, and they actually had a dialogue with each other, an empathy circle about gun control and violence. And actually, you know, once they started hearing each other, they found a lot of commonalities, you know, that you wouldn't think initially that they would have, but it was being able to hear each other. They were able to, you know, find a lot of common ground.
Yeah, so you had a personal experience with this, where you had a empathy circle tent at Berkeley, where you brought in a conservative woman and a very liberal a person from Berkeley, and they had a conversation about gun control, and they were able to, you know, listen to each other. They were able to hear each other, and you felt like the dialogue was productive.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I guess it's just that the empathy, if we can spread empathy, you know, throughout society, have the politicians, love to see the Congress have empathy circles with each other, you know, the Congress members, that they could model this. I think that would really kind of help.
So I'll just reflect what you said. You would love to spread empathy, particularly the way, at the congressional level, where if we could just model this with our politicians, and perhaps we could have a better outcome.
I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Sure. All right. Again, I like to start with a deep breath because I always feel a little overwhelmed. So I'm going to just do that. All right. Oh, I have to pick a listener. Sorry.
Yes, I agree. Yes, it's your turn to pick a listener.
So overwhelmed, I forgot to pick a listener. All right, let's go to. I think Linda, you heard me last time, so I'm going to go to you, Kevin. Kevin, would you listen to me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I love this topic. I love that the fact that we're moving from just talking about empathy circles as a training, but really in real life situations where, like in climate change, gun control, and where this could be a useful tool.
So you love this topic. It seems to be very useful, not just in the training, but in reference to real life, like climate change, gun control, and who else knows it could be.
Yeah, and that's really one of the reasons why I was, I gravitated towards this training, was because I wanted some real life application. And so I see this this in these topics, because I am concerned about the environment. I am concerned about gun control, all the liberal topics, but I often find myself not wanting to hear the other side because I just feel they're so wrong. But with this training, I have had to pause and just say, they have their opinions, and let's just listen.
Okay. So what I'm hearing that, with this training, empathy allows you to open yourself to hear other people's opinion. Prior to this, yes, no, you're so wrong, you have no clue. But now with this, you're being more empathic to hear their opinions, to listen to what's being said, and to be a part of that in your own way. But now you become more informed.
Yes, exactly. So I've actually had an experience with this where I had an acquaintance, I would say, somebody I knew, didn't know him very well, but it turned out he was on the opposite side of my perspective on COVID, and generally, pro-Republican, all that stuff. But in this situation, he was against the vaccine. He's not vaccinated, continues not to be. And I at first just had that knee-jerk reaction, like, what are you, an idiot? But I've been doing this training, and in the midst of this training, my interactions with him have changed, where I've just sort of, just listened and gave my perspective. Like, I've gotten the shot, I'm fine. And instead of blowing up.
Okay. So, man, you've already had real life experience with this, that how you've already been changed, because you come across an individual that you know personally and didn't understand that, their opinion, and they're always far left, which is really amazing. And you didn't understand it. But now with this training and being empathetic, you were willing to hear what they had to say and also able to voice your opinion back to them in a very civil way that was believable and understandable on both sides. So, it's become very powerful for you like that as a tool.
Yes. And it's interesting because most of our exchanges are over text, and and while his is like capital letters and very loud, you can kind of feel the anger. And I took a few hours before I responded, and I thought, just respond with empathy. I actually said that to myself, just respond with empathy. And I did, I shifted the conversation a little bit and just talked about what was happening in my life, how things are changed now because I've gotten the shot.
Right. I'm just going to reflect back to the time I went over. I was not tracking properly, but even with you, which is amazing, you were able to use this empathy over text. You were able to hear the tone and reference to the text, take time and reflect back with that time, and still give back an empathetic response. So if you notice, it has also changed the text and the communication. So let you know that this is powerful, not only in the visual presence, but even just communication of any level.
Great. Thank you. I feel fully heard. Okay, I think that's your round, Kevin. And I guess now we'll just give you some feedback. First of all, how was it for you?
It was great. I got lost in the first part of my own conversation, so I lost track of time. I enjoy the fact that I think everybody enjoyed a different conversation, or what was live with them was very exciting. And I love the pillow effect, everyone it connected.
Great. Does anyone else want to offer Kevin some feedback?
In terms of the time, Edwin has spoiled me with his signs. As a facilitator, I think it would be helpful if you tell the participants that you're going to give a sign when they're near their expiration and what that sign will be.
I like that. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Whether it's this and hold it, because sometimes, like you say, people are so caught up in their conversation they don't see it. So, you know, that's the only suggestion I have.
Edwin?
Yeah, actually, it was the timing. That was sort of the main issue. I mean, I forget sometimes too, but in terms of if it's a sort of a contentious circle, if you don't keep equal time, people start saying, how come that person is getting more time than the other? You know, so that's one of the things to be, I try to be fairly strict with it, you know, the time and the importance of timing. Because then it's like, oh, Kevin is the facilitator and he gets more time. That's not fair, for example, right? So that's why I'm pretty, yeah. And having a little sign is always good. Just so yeah. And then others also is to make a sort of a, maybe a, if there's people are on cell phones, they don't see you. And so you need to say, oh, that was the time or something like that, because you need to be sort of aware of that. So that was just some thoughts.
Okay, so the wording as well as the symbol.
Yeah. I think I agree with both Linda and Edwin. Just the time, everything else seemed to be fine. I liked your topic. I liked the fact that we all connected to that topic. And one of the things that when I'm facilitating is I have my cell phone, and so I sometimes go like this because people can't hear, or and then if that's not working, then I just put up that sign, the time sign, which I don't have in front of me today. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I think you did really well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so now Linda, you're next. You're going to be the facilitator, so you'll do your introduction, and then we'll have a quick discussion or quick feedback on your introduction, and then you'll go into the facilitation. You're on mute.
My name is Linda. I welcome everyone here today for this exciting experience that we're about to embark upon. It's a new way of having a conversation. It's called empathic listening. And some people refer to it as active listening. So what we're going to do today is everyone, let me start off by saying, everyone will have an opportunity to speak. It's going to be timed. Every speaker will have 3 minutes. And when your time, because sometimes we can get a little excited, if you're approaching your time of 3 minutes or going over, I will hold up a sign. I'll hold up my phone, and that's a signal that it's time to close it. There are 3 different participants here. I'm the facilitator. That means I'm responsible for the time and letting you know when your time is expired. And then we have the listener. And as a facilitator, I'll start this whole session off by being the first listener. And that's my opportunity to model to all our first timers what this exercise is about. So someone will speak, I'll pick a speaker, they will speak, I will listen, I will rephrase or reflect to ensure that they have been heard. And when their 3 minutes is up, then me as the listener will pick another listener. Me as a listener will pick another person to be the listener, because I model behavior, and that listener will have the opportunity to pick a speaker. I will give a topic. We can speak on, each person can speak on that topic, or they can speak on whatever is resonating in their spirit at this particular time. Again, it's a 3-minute opportunity to speak. The person, you will be the speaker, somebody else will be the listener, and then when that time is up, we move to the next. And I believe, I could be wrong, but the listener then will pick someone to be the speaker, and we just keep it going. So everybody will have an opportunity to speak. Again, when your time is up or coming to a near end, I'll hold up my phone just to let you know. So we will not interrupt. We will not use profanity. We will not judge. We will not offer suggestions. We're just going to listen to what the person is saying and rephrase it to ensure that that person has been heard. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Well, first of all, Linda, how was that for you?
I felt like I was rambling because I didn't, and then your facial expression was like, okay, maybe I don't have the sequence right about the list or whatever, but no, that's okay. I was like, okay, maybe I didn't get that right. But yeah, I felt like I was rambling and repeating myself. So yeah.
Okay, well, I apologize for the facial expression.
That's okay. No.
Does anyone else have a feedback for Linda?
I think along with you saying you're rambling, but I think you still hit a lot of points. And I really appreciate what we're not going to do is that's like, boom, you emphasize the time, who was going to listen. I think it could have been, the only part I didn't hear was about, helping people to pause or also speaking in small chunks, because 3 minutes is a lot, but
yes.
What we're not going to do is, I loved it. Thank you.
Edwin?
Yeah, there's this one page how to, like, as we're doing, you can always just use the one page and just sort of read it through like the first time.
And where is that?
I had sent it out previously. I can, it's okay. In the email so this is something, because it was a little confused. It's like you were confusing the listening and the speaking. And I get nervous, the first time around and so forth. But if one way is just to read through the how-to, and there's some speaker tips, active listener tips. So you may want to just try that too. So the energy, your enthusiasm was there. There's kind of like a deep sense, just like Kevin was like, an enthusiasm with the process, sort of the nuts and bolts, just need a little bit of practice, but that just comes with time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry about my facial expressions because I was a little confused when you said the listener becomes and I think, so you did get that order a little, wrong. The listener becomes the speaker and picks another listener. So I think that's what it was. So anyway, that was just a little bit confusing. So, but as Edwin said, that sheet will give you exactly what you should say, and sort of in your own words, you could say that. But it was good for the first time. I think I like the what you said about not, what you shouldn't do, which is good, because sometimes I forget that people need to be reminded.
That's the mediation rules. You will not do this.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. So I thought it was good. So now I guess we'll just move into you facilitating, this session.
Okay. The topic will be, oh, I have one. It just went away. Okay. Come on. Okay. The topic will be, defund the police. What does defunding the police, that term, defund the police, what does that mean to you or for you? I'm real political, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay, so I will be the listener, and I'm going to ask Mina to be the speaker. Oh, okay. And when Mina's 3 minutes is up, then I, the listener, will pick a speaker.
No, I will be the speaker.
Okay, you'll be the speaker.
No, I'm the speaker. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're the speaker, and when your 3 minutes is up, me as the listener will become the speaker, and I'll pick a listener. Okay. All right. So, Mina, you can speak on that subject. I just threw that out there, or whatever's resonating in your spirit, and you have 3 minutes, and you can go now.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the topic. I love this topic. I have worked in social justice for a long time, so this is very important. I live in Chicago, and this is a very important topic. I feel that defund the police is just misunderstood. It is a very poor choice of phrase. It's like people think we're just going to take their entire budget and just get rid of the police. That is not what defund the police means.
Okay.
And sorry.
Okay, you're saying that this subject resonates with you because you're in the social justice system, and the phrasing or the semantics, the wording is not reflective of what it actually means.
Right. And I heard, oh my God, somebody, a politician, I can't even remember who it was. It was Vice President Kamala Harris actually talk about this, and she's an attorney. And she talked about what defunding the police means, and it was the first time I'd actually understood it too. And defund the police is just taking that portion of the budget that where the police shouldn't be called for everything. So they shouldn't deal with things that they're not trained to do, like mental health issues, you know. And so if there's somebody who's mentally ill, there should be somebody else going to serve that person. So they should take that out of the police budget and give it to a social work agency to go and help the person with the mental health.
Okay, you're saying that you first got a clear understanding of what defunding the police meant, what it actually means, when you heard Vice President Harris explain it. And it's all about having people with the right skills respond to the right issues. And so it's about taking the budget, some of the budget, the police budget, and reallocating it to services that would be more appropriate to whatever 911 calls may come in.
Exactly, that's exactly it. Yes, so social work agencies should be able to respond to certain calls because they're trained for it, not the police. And I guess I'll stop there.
Okay, what I heard you say is that the police are not always the best responders. It just depends on what the situation is. And so that's how you see defund the police.
Yes. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
All right. Okay. Now, as the listener, I will pick a I'm gonna be the speaker, and I'll pick a listener. Mm-hmm. And the listener will be Edwin.
Okay, listening.
Listening. Okay, I want to speak on defunding the police. I agree with Mina that the semantics does not represent what is being advocated. I do agree that the budget could be reallocated, that every 911 call does not need to be responded to by the police with guns drawn. There are other countries that have policing, and they can do the policing without weapons.
Mm-hmm. So you're agreeing with what Mina is saying in terms of this misunderstanding of what defund the police means. That it's not a good term, but it's about the different roles, that the police don't have to come to every situation with guns drawn. And there's other countries that have sort of this different approach that you think would be more effective.
And I believe that the reason America has this approach to policing can be traced back to the Wild Wild West, where you had the sheriffs and the Matt Dillons and everybody with guns, and that's how they controlled the peace in the town. And then with slavery, they, you know, recaptured the slaves and brought them back or whatever. So it's always been a stick rather than a carrot. And so that has evolved over time, and to the point that we Americans believe the only way to respond to an emergency or potential violence is with violence.
So there's a whole history from the West and from slavery that's led to this stick approach to policing, that you have to kind of come at violence with violence. And so that's just the history of how it's sort of developed our current situation.
Yes, and I believe our citizens expect that response to be violent, and that's some of the problems we're having in our community with the police. They're coming in ready to do battle, and the citizens are geared up mentally and sometimes physically, you know, to do battle. So they come at each other as combatants rather than as servants of the people.
So the citizens already are so expecting violence as well. So the police are coming with that attitude. The citizens community is coming at it, and people are just seeing this as a battle that's going to happen. So it's sort of pre-structured with a battle mindset.
Yes, so I would advocate that the reallocation of expenses or the budget still be connected with the police department, but make sure that, and some of it has to do with how you respond to a 911 call, or what is the information received in a 911 call. If they say this is a mental patient that has not taken their meds or a domestic violence situation, then someone's going to have to be on the other end to determine who goes out. That's going to be a dilemma.
The calls need to be routed according to sort of what the need is. If it's someone who hasn't taken their meds, a mental issue, that emotional mental issue, that it's routed to the right people, maybe social workers or.
Exactly. So it's all about gathering the right information and making the right decisions.
So you have to gather the right information to begin with, and then make the right decisions to sort of route the calls and have the right people address it.
Correct.
Okay.
I feel fully heard.
So I guess
and I
it's
can't
my
turn
turn. I'll speak to Kevin.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that the term shouldn't be defund the police, but empathize with the police is how I would frame it, because it's sort of like the means are the end. So if we frame it as empathy, then I think that's a good starting point.
So you're saying that in reference to how the wording should be used should be more of an empathy to frame it, and you'll get a better outcome from it, as opposed to defund the police.
Yeah, because what we really want is the police to be empathic, right? For the police to be listening to the community. And I would love to see the police have community empathy circles, like, you know, that they go out and on a regular basis, you know, they're just holding circles with different organizations, or even on the streets, you know, like we have our empathy tent that we set up. I would love to, I had thought that the police could come into the tent and offer empathy to the community, just empathic listening.
You would like for this to go outside and be a part of the police system, where they can actually set up a tent and they'll come in and you know, do empathy circles with the community, and you know, it will hopefully make a change. And that's something they should be able to embrace within the police system, as well as to be embraced in the community as a tool.
Yeah, I'd like to see a row of police out on the street sitting in chairs, and across from them is an empty chair, and it says signs like, "We're here to listen. Come sit down. We're going to listen to you." And then citizens could sit down. They could talk about whatever's alive for them, just like in an empathy circle, and the police would reflect back what they're hearing.
So you already have visualized the layout in reference to the whole line of tents and police officers, citizens on the other side, you know, just that big old sign, "Come down and talk," you know, empathy circle, you know, and have that communication happen across the board.
Yeah, exactly. So So I think that's what it is, and if you say empathize with the police, it kind of creates the context, like it's citizens listening to the police, but the police listening to citizens, and everybody listening to each other in an empathy circle. So framing it from the get-go around mutual listening is, and I've been out in the with the empathy tent, and the police come there and says, you can't be here, you know, and want to kick me out, you know, from downtown Berkeley with the empathy tent. It's like, you get out of here or else, you know. And then other officers come by and they say, well, you know, free speech, you can be here and stuff. So, you know, it just depends on who you get.
Okay. On one hand, you've already had experiences on both sides from the police in reference to, you know, sit down, enjoy yourself, free speech, go for it. Or you had the other side, which like, you got to go, you got to move. You know, it'd be a great experience that, you know, this can be embraced all across the board in reference to empathy circles by the police, by the community. So I'm not only being heard, but I'm also being listened to on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, that's my time. I feel fully heard. And Jackie, are you here, or you should be in another room 4? Did you think? Oh, maybe it doesn't, her audio is not working. Okay, go. I feel fully heard.
Okay, now the listener gets to pick a, that becomes the speaker and pick someone to listen.
That'd be me. Okay. I'm gonna bring it back to you, Linda. And in reference to, you mind listening? I'm sorry.
Yes, fine. Yes, I'll listen.
I'll bring it back in reference to the defunding of the police, the choice of words. I'm hearing on both sides. I think it's a very interesting subject, but I feel as though on one part with Edwin and also on me, and also on your part with the wording, I think it would capture people in the most negative way, the police as well as citizens. I do believe or feel as though that both parties need to learn how to speak. But the challenge is the requirements to hire a police officer is not a psychiatrist. You know, it's pretty much a high school diploma.
Okay, what I'm hearing you saying, Kevin, is that you're continuing with this conversation about defunding the police, and you agree that semantics work. But one of the things is when you are hiring, you're talking about the educational or intellectual level of the police that are being hired, and they're not psychiatrists. Most of them have a high school education. That's their level.
So I guess when I was thinking about defunding police, how do we bring them, you know, of course, maybe using empathic circles, bring them to a level of to understand, but I'm finding more and more police aren't even a part of the community that they police. Okay, so what are your concerns is the police are not, a lot of times the police are not part of the community that they police. So that could be one obstacle or challenge in creating this emphatic listening. Right. So I definitely, because, you know, when I reflect back, I was known early on in my life, police officers were in the neighborhood, they lived in the neighborhood, and it made a difference of the neighborhood. And I found it to be very rewarding. Whereas now I see police that are here doing what they can do, but then at the same day, they get up and go across the bridge to another community that they live in that has nothing to do with the place where they work at. And, you know, I think part of that defunding is not only just retraining or training or adding more knowledge to the police, but also bringing the experience more to them, you know, that would change not only the trajectory of the environment, but the trajectory of, that was 3 minutes. I'll stop.
Okay, well, what you're saying is you related it to when you were growing up and the police lived in the community. You think that that's a plus because they can appreciate what's going on in the community. People know them, whatever, but where you live now, they do their job and then they go across the bridge and they go home. Again, this is creates a division.
Mm-hmm. I feel fully heard. That was a fast 3 minutes.
Okay. And when I do this, it's about 20 seconds. It's not exactly 3 minutes, y'all, but it's just letting you know to wind down, to come to close out. Okay.
Awesome.
So as a listener, I was the listener, so I get to
Sorry, can we stop for a second? Edwin, I don't know how much time we have left because we still have to have a discussion and then we're going back into.
Yeah, we have 8 minutes. I forgot to send so we should probably have our debrief.
Yeah, but can we just have 2-minute eco break? Because I really need it.
Okay, right. I forgot to send out the notice to everybody.
Okay.
I get so wrapped up. It's a great topic, you know. I forget. Oh, I'm supposed to be sending out a 10-minute notice, or so. Yeah, it's a great topic.
Definitely enjoying these topics.
So we're getting it back together as a group.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, in 8 minutes, we'll go to the full group and then do a debrief.
Okay.
So then we'll have half an hour.
So are we taking a break?
Yeah, Mina wanted to take a bio break. So
okay. Yeah, you can get carried away. And I'll just say while we're here, you know, I think when I do a empathy circle, I'm gonna have a co-host, somebody to help me stay on track. Because
good to have a buddy. Yeah.
Yes, I can get, especially if you got a group, you know, going. And again, I'm thinking about actually on site. Virtual is a little easier, but on site, when you get to see the people.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I should have had the break earlier. I was just I don't know, we had a momentum and I just didn't break, but I generally like to take a 2-3 minute break. And I've been drinking a lot of you know, water, so I needed to take a break. Yeah, there you go.
Coffee.
So I mean, I don't know if you guys still need one because I'm okay.
I'm good.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I think we're gonna have a final round of discussion before before everybody else joins us, and I don't think we have much time left. So so how did it go for everyone? I mean, I don't know what the general questions we're supposed to ask Edwin are, but I'm gonna just
check with Linda. How was it for her? Since
oh, sorry, I forgot. I'm so sorry, I forgot that it was your turn. Yeah, how was this for you, facilitating for you?
The timing is good. I kept looking at my clock here, and I got to fix this where it won't ring. I'm still getting the sequence of people, speaker, listener, whatever. But the timing was good. Everybody stayed on track, on point. There was no nobody got off track, so it was okay for me. I'm kind of used to facilitating role play, so.
Okay. Does anybody else want to offer Linda feedback?
No, I really enjoyed the topic. I know, as you said, you learned to turn the ring off. I think I'm going to use the ring. So not only listening on the phone, but it's also that verbal cue, since I tend to forget to speak. So I think I want to add the ring into mine, so that you hear it as well as seeing it. So and I'll do, like you said, the preparation of 15 seconds prior to, you know, since that was one of the challenges, I really like that. I think it's helpful. I think it was led very well. A nice balance. It was on point.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, I appreciate that feedback because I thought it was disturbing. But you're right, because Edwin said something about people, and I didn't know this. If they're on the phone, you can't see them. Or they can't
sometimes, sometimes they can only see one person on the phone. I think we're all on computers, so we see everyone. So I thought it was very smoothly. You know, there was the ring. You know, sometimes a gentle ring. You know, a little tingle, like a nice sound can sort of help with that. You know, I usually don't use it. I know like Lou uses it. He's another facilitator. I just hold up the sign. But everything felt very smooth. It was, I think you're struggling a little bit with how the listener becomes the speaker, and but you're getting it. I thought it took a little bit, but I think you got it now. So otherwise, it was a great topic. Yeah, really enjoyed the topic too.
Yeah, I agree with Edwin. I think that both of your topics, you know, was great. I really enjoyed. I forget because sometimes we stay with the empathy stuff topic instead of like how it applies to real life topics. So this was a treat, I think. Yeah, and I agree with Edwin about just the listener speaker thing. I think it's just a question of just kind of figuring it out, maybe drawing a diagram or something. And then, but otherwise it went well.
And Mia, you're right, because people learn differently. Some are visual and some are, so when I see it in writing and it goes click, which goes back to what Evan was talking about earlier with the different videos and whatever. And another thing I did notice that I need to say is that when I show you time or you hear the ringer, that's like 20 seconds, because I don't want people to think they're right at their, but it's so I need to explain that to people that I'm not gonna bring you right up to the 3-minute mark. It'll be like about 20 seconds, and that means for you to wrap it up.
Yeah, that's good.
You can also, I usually put up the time when it is the time, and then just say, have your final wrap up, it's like, so there's different approaches. You can kind of experiment, see, what works, whatever is comfortable for you. But yeah, like mentioning it in advance because I thought so too. I mean, Kevin was a little surprised, right? Like, oh, that went pretty fast, because he didn't know that he had the 20 seconds.
Yeah.
It was actually said 28 seconds. I saw your clock on it, said 28. So you had like a 30-second.
I wonder if we use like something in our, like something like this or something. That means, okay, I wonder if we could start using emojis, that will give you, so that, the person keeping time could use the emojis so that, you can see it.
So yeah, go ahead.
Without being disruptive. I mean, you can keep time on your cell phone or whatever, and then just hit that emoji. Or whatever. I just realized that there are probably things in the that
we could use different things.
That we could use.
So Evan, would you suggest that let them go the whole, even if they go over the 3-minute mark or the 5-minute mark or whatever?
Yeah, what I usually say is, I'll put up the time at 3 minutes, and then you'll want to wrap up at that point. And I didn't even say that in my intro either. So it's like you want to quickly and then get your final reflection.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So that's how, but you can experiment. It's like, just know, if it works better, if you feel it's working better in your circles, that, like a 20-second, you could try that. It's just, just see whatever works best.
Okay.
So Edwin, will these be some of the tools you'll add to the toolbox?
Yeah, it's all these are just constantly keep improving, create more and more tools. The one is this, this is a good, usually if I'm in person, I actually give everyone a copy of this so that they have it handy.
Okay.
And you can even, if you have a group, and I think I did put the link in there, if you do have a group that, I better close the rooms. If you have, you can even email it to everyone too, so they can have a copy maybe printed out.
I thought it was interesting the way Mia spoke about a graph that directs the flow of speaker and listener in a more visual sense. I thought, okay, that makes something I need to do to keep me like, who's next?
Yeah, there is a
graph like that already.
Yeah, there is a video, the intro, and I'll put that in. How to Empathy Circle. So here's a bunch of different versions of the how-to on this web page.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely taking a web page and make me a workflow, as they call it.
Yeah, just like anything, you just practice. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks Mina for facilitating that for us. It worked really well, I thought.
Well,
thank you everyone.
You're good.
Should I start this section off? Edwin, or will I give it a few
Yeah,
moments?
we're all set. You're up.
Cool. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. So we're into the final section. So each of us can now take about 1 minute to share your experience and insights. So our question based on today's learning was, how was your experience? And what is one thing that you're excited to practice before the next session? So we'll have a minute each, and I'm going to call on each person. Dawn Carrington, would you like to share? I'm just going from the bottom of my screen upwards.
Yes, no, that was an interesting experience. There was only 3 of us in our room. So we got to practice quite a bit, which is good, because despite reading the instructions over and over, I actually forgot quite a bit. So it was actually good to sort of find out through practicing where my knowledge gaps were in terms of facilitating the things. And I think the pennies dropped a lot more now. But yeah, it was a great circle too, with great discussion.
Thank you, Dawn. Al-Jazi, would you like to share next?
Yes. So share about the facilitation role, right?
No, so your insight, so anything that arose from that session for you, like your experience on the session, and also something that you might want to practice for next week.
Okay. So from today's session, I've noticed that I'm not the only one who's not comfortable to hold a facilitation circle or empathy circle. I used to think since it's not common in my culture to have a similar circle with strangers, it's more difficult to me, but I've noticed that it's taking everyone time to reach that level of comfort to share. Something that I want to practice is the body call. So I'm looking forward to practice that for next week. That's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Al-Jazi. Shyam.
Thank you, Michelle. I was reflecting on how I've been schooled in a culture that that prioritizes individual learning and individualism, and I would wager that that's true for some of your cultures as well. And how in these empathy circles, repeatedly, I find that it is the collective knowledge, the collective learning, which is far more important than my individual thoughts and my individual takeaway. It is just a different level of awareness that I'm learning to learn and learning to tap into, prioritizing the collective over the individual. That's my learning. Thank you.
That's magic, Cheyenne. Thank you. Martina, would you like to share?
We had an amazing experience in our group, and we really spoke about the topic of safe space and the pain that can come up during this empathy circle. And so that was really interesting. And I noticed that the practicing, it feels very easy to me, which is not a lot of things I've done. I went to training for a yoga teacher, and I had to teach people during that training, and it was like horrible. I felt so much anxiety, and I felt that anxiety with other things. But with this practice, it's just like, it just comes so naturally. It just feels so aligned with my life. And so I feel very grateful for it. And so I'm really looking forward to doing more and bringing that safe place to my next circle that I lead to.
Thanks so much, Martina. Miss Tiffany, would you like to share next?
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. One of the strengths that I learned was resilience, because our lead, Graham, he allowed us to have to sit through as other people gave feedback on our presentation. And it was, as someone who has been around like a lot of criticism, I really appreciate myself for taking it and not feeling down about it or discouraged at all. Not that they presented it in a negative way at all, but sometimes when we bring our whole selves to people, we're bringing our whole selves, which means everything that's right about us and wrong about us. And we can't really just look at things unbiasedly. But I love that these were very kind people who gave me feedback. So I didn't feel anything but love and constructive criticism. So thank you guys for that.
Thanks so much, Tiffany. Kathy, would you like to share next?
Yes, it was a beautiful experience as always. And one thing I noticed is the attunement and resonance that happens with the topic that comes forth. And so I learn a lot from what everybody else has to say and from what comes from myself too. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Kathy. Michelle Groban, would you like to share next?
Michelle. Yes, I think for me it was the introduction part was a little bit difficult because I was the first to go. And so I found that I was giving the information, but it was more of a robotic kind of giving the information. And then as we went on and we were doing the facilitation, I was able to pick up on different things people were doing and information they were giving. And I think by the time it was my time to be facilitator, I was able to be more myself, and I was more calm and I was more relaxed. And so I really appreciate everyone in my group, and the feedback was wonderful. You know, even the things I need to learn, I will appreciate and I will work on this week. And I really appreciate everyone on my team.
Really appreciate having you here. Rona, would you like to share next?
It was a great experience. Like the energy in the room was very, very contagious, you know, that you feel calm, you feel great. And one of my experience was like, I'm happy to be part of the training because Empathy Circle always give me this feeling about not judgmental environment, a place that I could speak and be accepted. And I'm very happy that I've been training to do the same to others, like to get to do that, give that feeling and calmness to others. So I'm really happy as always to be part of the training.
Oh, thanks so much, Mona. Linda Bass, would you like to share?
Yes, as usual, the circle was great. It is a safe place. It is a brave space, and it's really helpful. If it seems like we're all on the same page in terms of our interpretations of certain things. So, you know, it's real easy. I'm gonna have to focus on the sequence of listener, speaker, whatever comes next, and the facilitator. We talked about different ways of letting the speaker know when their time is about up or is up. And I thought that was great because we have more than one way, you know, to do that. It's working because we're all in agreement or on a cohort, in a cohort is on a cohort. So I'm really anxious to see what it's like when you have opposing views.
Magic. Thank you, Linda. Cheyenne, if you're there, would you like to share?
Shem already shared.
Oh, sorry, apologies.
Yeah.
My order
No
changed
worries.
on my screen. Thank you, Shem. Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Kevin, would you like to share?
Definitely. The experience of this circle was really powerful. The fact of learning or experiencing new ways of facilitating. I really appreciate the fact that, you're taught it, you're giving the feedback, you're also able to implement it, but you're also able to see it, which makes it more even organic to say, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm not doing, understand the order, and it's not so more mechanic. And the topic was able to be fresh, and you're living in it, and it was like really rewarding to like, okay, it comes away with another organic experience of powerfulness, but also kindness that came from the group as well for us, the knowledge that's shared.
Sounds really cool. Thanks, Kevin. Raid, would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. Let me start by saying I felt like it was a safe space where we all collaborated and we were transparent with one another. I love that. I love that Russia was our main facilitator. I loved how she gave us the opportunity to first provide feedback to ourselves before opening it to others. And then after that, others gave their feedback, and then she put the icing on the cake and gave her two senses. So that whole process felt organic and nice. Some of the strengths that I observed is that I was able to recover if I missed something very fast, seamlessly, and things I needed to work on were like how to juggle multiple balls, especially during the listening and the timing. That I need to do some practicing on it. But other than that, it was an amazing experience. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Raid. Shannon, would you like to share?
Sure. It was wonderful group, wonderful learning experience. I really appreciated just personally, like zeroing in on a challenge of mine that I can work on, both as a hopeful facilitator and but one that affects my life, I think, in other areas. And that was incredibly useful. And having the opportunity to just hear other people's process as we were all learning together, I think was a rare and great opportunity. So thank you. And thanks to my group members.
Thanks so much, Shannon. Can I just check, has everybody that was a facilitator has went? Just the reordering on my screen has changed, and then we'll move into the supporters and the trainees.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I'm just moving into the supporters now. I just wanted to check. So all of the facilitators have went.
I'm not familiar with the terms you're using, facilitator and supporter, but I haven't shared, so I don't know what
sorry,
you want
Stephen,
me to do.
could you share, please? Yeah, if you don't mind. Sorry, my order
sure.
changed on my screen. And sorry, one moment, Ralph, and we'll come to the trainees. Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. Well, I echo what other folks have said, that my experience was that there's a lot of safety. I'd like to note that I think that the system of teaching is really well thought out. It's simple and stepwise, programmatic, in a way that just is really working, I think, for me. Along with it being a safe space, I felt held and able to make mistakes, and that it was fine. I also noticed that it comes easily and is enjoyable to me. One other thing I'm noticing is that as the active listener, I feel pulled to reflect not only the exact words that were said, but I pick up what I think are the feelings of how the words are given, and I have this urge to include that in my reflection. And I'm figuring out how to do that, and like what's appropriate and what's not. So as time goes on, I'd like to hear feedback about reflecting people's feelings. Thanks.
Actually, thanks so much, Stephen. And yeah, so moving to the trainees. Ralph, would
Has
you like to share?
Martina, have you gone? Oh, you have. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you're good.
Thanks, Ralph. Thanks.
I'm sorry, I don't know who I am. And that was portrayed in the group, where at one point I literally didn't know whether I was the speaker or the listener. We had become this multi-celled organism. And takeaway is how to really work, it has to be authentic. Therefore, it has to come out of the person's personality and their style. And I was really appreciating that. And going forward, one of our spiritual progenitors, Carl Rogers, of course, would reflect back feelings and the music. I've refrained from doing that, but I think it is very important going forward to be tracking my own feelings very carefully, which would lead me to go off track and make affirm an enthusiasm or add my 2 cents. So I'm looking at my feelings continually.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Mina, would you like to share next?
Sure. Yeah, this is my first time. I don't know. Again, I'm confused as everybody else what the title is. I think I was the trainer facilitator. I don't know. Anyway, it was wonderful. I had Kevin and Linda and Edwin in my group, and we had some really great conversations. So I really enjoyed doing this, and hope to do some more.
Cool. Thanks, Mina. Francesca, would you like to share next?
Sure. So a lot of really nice things came up in this for me. So one of the things was the vulnerability that people started expressing, that as we continued on our practice, more vulnerable stuff would be flushed up, and how when we share from a vulnerable place, how that cultivates connectivity, because we can on some level all relate to being vulnerable in our humanity. So I was aware of that, and then how that can also cultivate self-empathy, right? So how the actually engaging this process not only cultivates empathy for other people, but self-empathy, and we kind of can internalize that self-empathy, and just how people have been sharing about how the process is forgiving, like the structures forgiving, the process is forgiving, where our intentionality is to be empathic, and so it kind of lets us off the hook. It kind of allows us to relax a little bit and just let go and just be more. Like we can just be who we are more, and not have to fret about being criticized. And then what Miss Tiffany shared about, like, I think we live in a world where we receive a lot of negative criticism, right? And we internalize that and we bring that with us. And so to be able to be part of this process where we can actually feel safe and know that the feedback we get is going to be positive, constructive feedback without judgment, and it's to be helpful and encouraging. So that's what I've experienced. That's what, came up for me. And then finally, just how all this can cultivate awareness, just greater awareness into ourselves, into other people. Thank you.
That's really, thanks so much, Francesca. That's gorgeous. I might just share now myself that on our circle, we had Martina and Shannon and Jackie, and it was just beautiful. Like all of our facilitators just kind of got effortlessly into it, and the depth of the circle was, I could have like stayed circling away for the rest of the evening. There's some beautiful topics and like a real kind of meeting of like beings that all have this like shared interest around empathy and bringing that out into the world. So I'm just really grateful to the circle. Edwin. And Rasha, if I could call on you next, please.
Sure. So I had an amazing time, as is always the case. It was a lovely group. I had Michelle ride and Ralph with me, and it was lovely. And they were doing really great, because, and I was thinking back to the first time I was, there trying to facilitate for the first time, and I could see how amazingly they were doing it. And I was feeling really proud and happy to see how they were really good. And so it went very smooth, no hiccups at all, just minor issues here and there, which we all just openly had discussions about. It was beautiful, very calm, very peaceful, and a happy sort of a session. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Rasha. Graham, would you like to share next?
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Michelle. To me, it was a very, very satisfying experience. For me, the objectives in running or facilitating a little breakout room is that we generate some kind of attunement and resonance, and that sense of safety, the sense that we can make mistakes, and that we're all feeling heard. And I felt that we'd established all of those things in the group. And really quite early on, I would say roughly about halfway through the group, we began to feel this sense of safety and be able to express it in some of the ways in which we interacted with each other and the way in which we facilitated. And one of the things that I noticed in the group is that because of the sense of safety, one of the facilitators who felt a little bit challenged by the use of English as a second language wanted to delegate responsibilities for timing and various other things like that to other people. And she was quite free to do that and felt comfortable doing so. And it's that kind of comfort and ease throughout the group, irrespective of your role, which is very heartening. And I believe we all came away with some real wonderful takeaways from today's experience, including myself. And I thank you all for, and I'm talking about Cheyenne, Aljazi, and Tiffany, and thank you all very much for what you taught me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Graham. Celine, would you like to share next?
Sure. I learned so much from each person in my group, Mona, Francesca, and Stephen. And one of the things I'm taking away is that one of the things I love about this experience is, I think probably it's the only good thing about the pandemic, is that I get to meet people from all over the world in these empathy circles. And I want to remember to keep my language simple and concrete to help people who are so brave and so generous as to share in these circles, even though English is not their first language. So that's a big takeaway for me. Thank you. Complete.
Oh, thanks so much, Celine. Bill, would you like to share?
You're muted, Bill.
So, yeah, sorry. We had a great circle. I was impressed by the generosity and the dedication of both Dawn and Kathy. I wanted to address what Stephen said, but I'll do that later. So thanks, appreciation to all of you.
Oh, thanks so much, Bill. Edwin.
Yeah, for me, I really appreciate the co-learning, because we're all learning in this circle. So we have the participants and the facilitator and myself. So I just really enjoyed the co-learning, and our group it just felt so warm and real connection. So I'm really grateful to everyone in our group. I keep thinking of the iterating and improving the process. So I was hearing made some notes here about the different roles. There's a lot of different roles and titles, and it gets a little bit confusing. So we need to sort of simplify that. So I'm thinking, how do we be really clear on that? And people have asked about reflecting feelings. And the important thing is to for the speaker to feel heard to their satisfaction. So that's the ultimate goal. You can kind of experiment with reflecting back feelings that you might sense there, but just keeping in mind that it's for the speaker to feel heard. So there's a lot we can keep doing to keep improving and iterating on this to make it a better and better experience for everyone. So I just appreciate all the feedback and comments on how we might be able to do that. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Edwin. I'll pass now to Mina for final closing. I think you might be on mute, Mina.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. All right, so there's just a few things before we close. Are there any final comments from the trainers?
Yeah, this is what I'd like to.
Okay, Bill. Go ahead.
Thank you. So to talk about, and Edwin addressed it a bit, and I'll just kind of broach the subject quickly. So sharing underlying feelings and things like that, you should be aware of people's boundaries. So for instance, somebody might be talking about something, and if it was your best friend, you'd say, wow, it sounds like you have problems in your marriage. But if it's someone you met on Zoom the first time, that might be going and violating their kind of sense of priority. So that's a sort of tertiary, awareness. And the other thing is that in certain things, people, certain practices, you have to get to the feelings and the underlying. If you don't do that, you're somehow wrong. And that's not what we want to do in the empathy circle. Any skill level is welcome. And as long as you're trying your best and trying to do that, as Edwin said, so that the speaker feels heard, that's fine. So sometimes you kind of go back to the words or something like that. Nothing wrong with that. And you'll find that as you sort of practice, you'll develop your skill and a sensitivity, around, when it's the right time to do those things. That's it. Thank you.
Right. Any other trainer have any comments? All right. Well, we only have about a minute left, so I'm going to go over things very quickly. Let's just review what we did in session 2. To summarize, we practiced introducing empathy circle process with instructions on how to participate in an empathy circle. Everyone got a chance to practice facilitating a short empathy circle, and then we debriefed this experience at the end of the empathy circle. So now what's coming up next week? In session 3, you will practice facilitating again. But next week, you'll be able to decide whether you want to have some challenges from your facilitator. So this course is designed to let you go at your own pace. So next week, the facilitator will ask you if you want a challenge, and you have the option of saying no, or you can pick an easy challenge or a hard challenge. It's up to you. The trainer is not going to give you more challenges than you want. Assignment for next week is we're going to send out an email to remind you to fill out the session feedback survey. The link's in the chat. You'll have an empathy buddy call. You will be paired up with a new empathy buddy. And then finally, try to facilitate an empathy circle with your family and friends and whoever else. So please post one feeling that you have now as a result of being here today. Are we doing that in the chat, Edwin?
Yeah, in the chat, I just posted the question there.
Okay, great. If we can do that. Let's see. Open, I see. I don't have my chat open. Open, calm, happy, fulfilled, clarity, gratitude, gratitude again, connected, self-accepting, determined. Okay. All right, I think it's time for our jazz hands to say goodbye till next week.
See you next week. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye, thank you.
Have a lovely week. Goodbye.